All right, everybody, we're ready for Mr. Stewart Rhodes to talk. Stewart is a ex-Army paratrooper. Anybody that was in Airborne probably recognizes the banner. Stewart's a real constitutional lawyer, unlike some people claim to be. He makes other constitutional lawyers look better, that's for sure. Here's Stewart.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm the exception that proves the rule that most attorneys and most judges simply mouth the oath of office and have no intention of keeping it because they have no fidelity, no respect for the Constitution or for the meaning of oaths. Thanks for coming. What I want to talk about now, how many folks here are going to stay for dinner? Raise your hand if you're going to stay for dinner. Not many. Okay, I'm going to go through as quickly as I possibly can. What I want to give you here is a lot of nuts and bolts organizational information. You've probably seen some speeches I've given in the past. If you want to get some inspiration, I encourage you to go watch those. But right now, I'm hoping that you're already inspired to do whatever you can, pledging your life, your fortune, and your sacred honor to restore this republic. And as was talked about earlier, the story I gave at Lexington Green was about Samuel Whitmore, who at the age of 80 took up arms one last time and went out and fought against the British, against the regulars, fully anticipating his own death. And when he was asked years later why he did so, his response was so that my children will not have to be subject to a foreign king. That was his answer. And like I said in my speech at Lexington Green, he understood the reality. He had his head on straight and understood that none of us gets out of here alive. What counts is whether or not we leave our children free. And so now, what can we do? When someone asked earlier, what can we do? I don't have all the answers. I think that I have a pretty good chunk after having been around for several decades and watching and participating in what you can call the broader freedom movement. I saw a missing piece of the puzzle. There was focus on elections. There was focus on education in general of the population, which is absolutely necessary. But what I saw is a gap that needed to be filled of focusing on the police and military and the firefighters and other emergency responders. Now, why focus on them? Not because the rest of the population doesn't need to be educated or reached, but because it's kind of like constitutional triage. We're potentially running out of time. It's going to take time, as Commander Gillie pointed out earlier. It took a long time, a lot of neglect on our own parts, a lot of sitting on the couch and waiting for someone else to do it for this country to go to the low state it's in at this time. It's going to take time to build it back up. And so, to me, Oath Keepers is a two-part mission. On the one hand, we know that to restore this republic is going to take time. How do you do it? You don't do it by sending letters to the president or just focusing on presidential elections. You don't even do it by focusing on Congress. You should pay attention to what they're doing. You should oppose what they're doing, but don't put the focus of your effort on that. They don't care what you say. They don't care how eloquently you write. You're not going to educate these people. Most of them are lawyers. They should know better anyway. But they're still acting in violation of their oaths. That's not going to change. I don't waste my time trying to talk to lawyers and judges and politicians. Not at this stage. I focus on the guys with the guns because I understand that while it will take time, we should give that effort, we might run out of time. So the one side is to rebuild our republic. I recommend you do it from the very bottom up, from the county level up. In fact, starting in your own homes. As Commander Gillie said earlier, starting with yourself. Are you a citizen? Are you a full citizen? You must take full part in the life of your community and your country. That means at the individual level. You must make sure you understand the Declaration and the Constitution. Understand, as Jefferson said, his guide to constitutional interpretation was to hearken back to the time, the history, and the events that surrounded the adoption of the Constitution. That's the guide to understanding. Do you know it? Do you know your own history? You know? How many folks here knew the story of Samuel Whitmore? Not many. How many know the story of the abuses that led up to the fighting on April 19, 1775. It wasn't just confiscation of firearms. That was the spark. But in the Declaration itself, it lays out all the causes for taking up arms. It tells you right there what the long train of abuses were. You must know it, because history does repeat itself. So I encourage you, you have to take care of yourself, make sure you're squared away, and your families. If we all sweep our own porches, then the world is clean. Start there. Start in your family. Start in your neighborhood. Work your way up, your town, your city council, your chief of police, your county, making sure you got good county commissioners, making sure you got a squared away sheriff. Then you work on the state legislature, and then you worry about Congress. That's the way to do it. Why? That's the only way it's going to work, as far as I'm concerned. Also, you might run out of time. If you run out of time, what I mean is the fertilizer might hit the oscillating blade before you can get to Congress, right? But what do you have when you start at the very bottom like that? At whatever stage, you're strengthening your family, you're strengthening your community. It's going to take strong, resilient communities to survive if this country faces or succumbs to an economic collapse or to other catastrophic times we may face very soon. So that's kind of my vision with Oath Keepers, is to work on both sides of it. On the one side, it's from the ground up, rebuilding the republic, but on the other side, it's making sure that meanwhile, the guys with the guns, the men in the military, men and women in the military, police, and also our emergency responders who may be given orders to carry out unlawful violations of your rights or to support them. That's why we include firefighters and EMTs and rescue personnel, because they could be asked to lend support structure to violations of your rights. So while we hope for the best, hope we have time to resurrect and restore from the ground up, we also understand that we might run out of time. And so if we run out of time and we're thrown back on a state of nature and have no recourse, as our forefathers did, to take up arms, we would hope that if such a day comes, or hopefully to even preclude it ever coming, that the people with the people in the military and the police, the guys with the big guns, will stand down and side with the people. I hope that by doing this, by reaching out to them and teaching them the things they should already know, but don't, by doing that, I hope that we can cause enough strategic uncertainty in the minds of anyone in political power who may be tempted to try it. I want to cause enough uncertainty in their mind about whether or not their orders will be fulfilled, that they never even try it. That buys us more time. But if we do run out of time, if they're so ignorant of history and so full of hubris that they do attempt to pull the plug on this republic, then it would still be to our betterment to have more men and women in the military and police who do understand their responsibilities, who do have the knowledge of the Constitution they swore oath to defend, and who do have the courage to do so. Come what may. More of them, every single one of them, adds to our side of the scale, on the side of liberty. Every one of them that's awakened to their full responsibilities helps us, come what may. Whatever happens, same goes on this side. Every time you learn and understand and teach someone in your family about their responsibilities of citizenship, every time you take on your full roles as citizens, which I'll talk about in a second, every step you take along that line strengthens your family and your community so that come what may, you're in a better position. Neither one of these things are wasted efforts. Every time you hand a card out to a current serving police officer or soldier and point them to our website, every time you give them a pamphlet, every time you hand out a DVD, we're going to make DVDs now for active duty military with Commander Gillie's speech that he just gave, along with the one he gave prior at our conference about the command structure. Every time you hand one of those out or send a care package or whatever it is you do, each one of those can make a difference. You have no idea what difference you could make. Like a rock thrown in a pond, a pebble. Who knows what effect it may have? But you know that you are making a difference for the side of liberty and for the side of justice. On the same side, on the other side over here, every time you take full part in your community, you will be adding and strengthening your community so no matter what happens,